Okay, let's start over. So this is our day 10 A class. It's chapter 3, but chapter 3 was used to cover general communication skills. Then they wanted us to cover abbreviations and incident reports, which is also part of communication. So this chapter 3 covers general communication skills, your verbal and non-verbal communication, right? And also abbreviations and incident report. So we're going to focus on just a little bit about abbreviations. The only page you need from your book, from that chapter 3, is page 42. If you have a new book, the old book, I'm not sure what page, is 40? Okay, so let's do the abbreviations first. Abbreviations, those are letters or symbols that represent a word or a phrase, a terminology that only the medical people understand. But we're trying to minimize abbreviations as much as possible because it can be confusing. And we had a situation a few years back. This was involving a nurse. This nurse was supposed to give eye drops to a resident. The inspectors were there, and unfortunately they happened to pick him to watch him give medication to a resident as part of the inspection. Sometimes they're going to watch
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
Okay.
I'm coming back later. You're going to be here later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So sometimes they pick a CNA too, and they want to watch how you turn them or how you feed them also as part of the inspection. So you know that everything has to be according to the book. So the eye drop order says give 1 drop OS twice a day. OS means left eye. I don't know how they come up with OS and left eye. Doesn't match, right? But that's the abbreviation for left eye is OS. OD is right eye. OU is both eye. You don't need to write this down. This is for, But the way the order was written says, give 1 drop OS twice a day. He thought OS was both eyes. So he gave the eye drops in both eyes. And he's been doing that because that's what he thought OS meant. So the inspector now said, wait a minute, you're only supposed to give the eye drop in the left eye, according to the doctor's order. Why did you give it in both eyes? Here the resident said, I have been telling them that the doctor told me it's only my left eye that is bad and not my right eye, and they've been giving it to me in both eyes. We were in big trouble. So whenever there's a problem like that, the facility has to come up with a plan of correction to make sure that doesn't happen again. So because of our plan of correction, no more abbreviations. And I don't know why, just write, give 1 drop to the left eye. Simple. Why OU or OS or OD? So we're trying to eliminate abbreviations. You've heard a lot of errors happening in the hospital. There was a case where somebody's right leg was cut off instead of the left leg. Why? You have BKA. RBKA means right below the knee amputation. LBKA means left below the knee amputation. The difference is the L and the R, right? Instead of just spelling it out so everybody knows, the L must have looked like, or the R must have looked like L or something like that. So they now prepared the wrong leg to be cut off. Then they cut that off. And you can't put it back. And they still have to cut off the one that they were supposed to cut off. Now they cut off both legs. It happens because of those abbreviations. So we try to stop the abbreviations But there are a few that you need to know. So if you go to that page, you have ADL stands for activities of daily living, right? AMB, ambulation, BID, twice a day. BM is bowel movement, BP is blood pressure. That wood sign, we don't use it that much. C/O, complain of. You need to know DNR. Do not resuscitate. Before you start CPR on anyone, you have to know whether the person's supposed to wanted CPR or not. It will be in their chart. DX is diagnosis, follow-up, hour, water, intake and output, isolation, IV, medication minutes, milliliter, NPO. NPO is very important. We still use NPO. You're gonna have maybe a resident supposed to go for surgery the next day. Doctor have given an order, they should not eat anything today. Or maybe from 6 p.m. till the surgery, to the next day. So there'll be a sign saying, resident is NPO from 6 p.m. The resident have been told this. Sometimes the residents are non-compliant. So you need to make sure that all water, all snacks, all food is removed from the room. So that they're going to get hungry around 9 p.m. or so. They'll be tempted to eat anyway. We've had several situations where we took a resident to a doctor's appointment. They should have been NPO the previous day. They get to the appointment. Doctor says, when was the last time you had something to eat? They said, this morning. Somebody fed them breakfast that morning before they left, by mistake. Now, they can't do the procedure anymore. We have now wasted government's money to transport them to the doctor's appointment. Sent a CNA to escort them. Now we have to reschedule that all over. We have to inform the family that we made a mistake. The doctor or the hospital will report the facility to the Department of Health. How we're wasting taxpayer money because we're not following instruction. So you have to make sure after meal, PPE, you need to know that personal protective equipment, PRN as needed, every hour, range of motion without start. Right, you need to know start. Once you hear start, it means urgent, immediately, now. Temperature 3 times a day, vital signs, which that's all you need to know for abbreviations, okay? But we're going to focus more on incident reports, okay? Incident reports. Whenever there's an incident or accident or whatever happens, there must be an incident report. The incident report you write is going to go to the Department of Health because every incident is reported to the Department of Health, and all the documentation, all the paperwork also sent to the Department of Health. How you write your report could put you in trouble or put the facility in trouble. I like to tell a lot of stories. We had a situation where this CNA, the resident was combative. The resident hit her. Okay, swung at her the first time. The resident was about to swing the second time. So the resident is coming this way. She also extended her hand to block the resident, like in a defensive way. And that's how she wrote it. The resident hit her, and then the resident was about to hit her again, so she extended her hand to block the resident from hitting her. In her mind, she thought that was okay. Every time your hand goes forward, you are the offender towards a resident. Doesn't matter what they're doing. You can't cannot extend your hand this way. So she had two problems. Problem number one, the first time the residents swing at you or hit you, that's the end of the care. You cannot continue. Obviously, the person doesn't want you to change them or bathe them or whatever you're doing. Leave them alone. It's their right to refuse. You cannot force them. She should have removed herself from that situation and report to the charge nurse. That would have been end of story. So she didn't do that. By continuing the care, you're now the aggressor, because that's what now prompted the resident to swing at you the second time. You understand? Mm-hmm. That's how they look at it. But then, by you extending your hand this way, you were trying to hit the resident. That was the conclusion. She got fired. The only way they knew that she was extending her hand was because of how she wrote the report. She could have just said, resident hit her, and case closed. Because now you don't have to write something that is implicating you. You understand? So one thing that we always learn in writing incident report is think like a lawyer when you're writing, but write like a reporter. But you're going to narrate what happened or explain what happened with a legal mindset as you're writing, because you could be called to testify in court to defend what you wrote. So let's look at this example. This is going to be a homework for you though. But I'm going to explain it, and I'm going to give you a sample incident report. Then you're going to do this and turn it in tomorrow. You're going to put your name, date, and this will be your own residence. You walk into the room, and your resident is on the floor. But I'm going to use a different scenario to kind of explain this. So my example is going to be that we walk into the room, resident is on the floor, sitting. The wheelchair is behind him. He's facing the door. It's very important to describe so many things, like how they were sitting, which way they are facing, because that will help the doctor determine which part of the body may have hit the floor. The doctor is not there. The doctor is going to depend on your reporting to determine whether X-ray is going to be ordered for the head, the shoulder, the knee, the butt, or the whole body. All right. So, just when you're writing an incident report, think of these 10 points you're going to add. You basically must address these 10 points. When did it happen? Who were involved? What happened? How did it happen? Why did it happen? Who were the witnesses, if any? Sometimes there was no witness. What did you do? Very important. What did you do? Who did you report to? Morning, madam. There's one vacant seat there. Are we expecting anyone else? No? It's okay. We have no chairs. Who did you report to? Because sometimes you're trying to take care of a resident, the resident falls, and you're the only one there, and you decide, you know what, I don't want to get in trouble, I'm not going to report it. Then there's swelling, or there's broken bone. The next person that takes over from you now sees it and reports it. It is obvious that the person that it's not obvious. Most people will believe that the person that reported is not the one that did it, right? Because they reported it. Who does it fall back on? The person they took over from. Because if they just arrived or they're about to provide care and find out that resident's knee is swollen, it wasn't swollen yesterday, they immediately report it, said, nurse, come and see Resident knee is swollen, X-ray is ordered, we find out it's broken, something happened, right? So an investigation will now take place. Everybody that worked 3 days before that will have to write an incident report, a statement, be interviewed. So even though accident happened, report it. Whether you made a mistake, it's better to report it, and you may be reprimanded, you may not be, but if you cover it up, you can get terminated or even be charged with abuse, because you need to explain what happened and why you did not report it. Then you now look suspicious. So who did you report to? What did they do? Because if you report something to a charge nurse, they don't do anything, you need to know that they didn't do anything. You also have an obligation to remind the charge nurse again to say, then what was the outcome? Did the person die? Did they go to the hospital? Did they have an injury? Things like that. So those are some, it might be that some of them are not necessary, but these are like a guide to writing an incident report. So let's kind of start from number one. So when you're writing a report, you start with the date. So you're gonna go like this. On, what's today's date here?
2020.
On 1/20/2020 at approximately 9 a.m. Okay, so now let me explain that, because that has answered number one, when did it happen? So you always start your report with the date it happened and the time it happened. On January 20, 2020, never give a specific time. Because when you walk into the room and see a resident, the first thing you do is not to check your clock. The first thing you do is to take care of the situation. Maybe 2-3 hours later, before you're now sitting down to write the report. So you want to say approximately, just in case. Okay, now, who were involved and what happened? All right, I walked into room 210 B. If that's the resident's bed or A, you can also use the resident's name as well. But if you're using the name, spell it out correctly, the full name. But the recommendation is to use the room number. So you walk into the resident's room and I walked into a room and found, let's just say, Mr. Ray. On the floor. Okay. So you walk into the room, and so now we have answered who was involved. And Mr. Ray on the floor. I said earlier that it's important to describe the position he was lying in to give an idea how he may have fallen. You're going to say he was sitting on the floor, facing the door. And his wheelchair was behind him.
paint a picture of that tells the doctor how the resident was sitting. So now we've answered what happened. How did it happen? Now, how it happened, you may not know if the resident cannot tell you what happened. But you always, if the resident can speak, you must ask the resident what happened. Okay. I asked the resident, and he said that he was trying to go to the bathroom and lost his balance
South around College Park.
and fell backward. So now he has explained what happened. We have an idea of what happened while he is still able to speak. It is also important to make sure we know whether he hit his head or not. So you can say, you can ask him, did you hit your head? But like in my facility, once a resident hit their head, they must go to the hospital. We can't take chances because we don't know what kind of damage may have occurred. If we're sure he did not hit his head, we can keep him and just have X-ray, come and X-ray him. So you can just say he denied hitting his head. Okay. The next thing, so why did it happen? We know that witnesses, you can just say, you can either leave it out or just say there were no witnesses.
Sorry, sir. But if you say he denied, that means maybe it actually happened, but he lied about it.
No. So denied is also used as lying, but denied is also used to say, like, no. Deny also
But what
means
if
no.
you just say, he said he didn't hit his head or something?
You can put it like that. Yeah. But this is also okay. So you can say, there was no witness. Now, what did you do? So let me ask you, if you walk into a room and a resident is lying on the floor, what will you do? What will be the first thing you do?
Find out what happened first.
We've done that. He has said what happened, then what do you do next?
You report to the trial.
Go to the channel.
You won't.
Before I report to the child,
Okay,
I
hold
have
on.
to, like the way he's lying there, I have to let him sit up a little bit before I go, maybe ask for help or rather go and report to the child.
Anybody else? Okay. Huh? You try to send him up. I mean, like in this particular case, you know he's on a furnace, right?
Yeah.
And if it's winter time, his hair may have been fried because that thing is hot. So when you're writing how you find him, This is not a table. This is because some of my students have said his head was resting on the table. This is the air conditioner or furnace or whatever you want to call it. It's used for
He gets it out
heating.
of that situation.
Right, so you can adjust the head a little bit, but you're not supposed to pick them up because they may have injury. Okay. So you can say I immediately called charge nurse. And she came and assessed the resident. Okay, so we've answered. Who did you report to? What did they do? It's important that they assess the resident while on the floor. Judges can't just come and say, okay, let's put the resident in the bed. No, they're supposed to assess. You can be called as a witness. Did the charge nurse assess the resident before picking her up, before putting her in the bed? So you know. So she came and assessed the residents before assisting the resident to the bed. So what did they do have been answered. What was the outcome? In this case, the outcome is for the charge nurse to determine. So you can leave that because there's no apparent outcome. For example, if two residents were fighting and there was blood or there was injury, you could say the resident was bleeding from the head or there was a cut, you know, but the charge nurse is really responsible to answer that outcome question because they're going to write their own report also. Or you can say that
Normally we'll take the viral signs anyway. Now when you finish writing, your paper may be lined or it may be like a plain paper. You need to sign you draw a line so that nobody can add something to it. Draw a line and then write your name in full. Your title, the date and time. You're going to repeat your date again and put, what time is it?
Is it the time you started the report?
No. The time you're writing this. The time of the incident, it cannot be the same time. You can just say 11 a.m. Because sometimes people forget to write the report and have to come the next day to write it. Or we call you from home to come and write your incident report. So the time you're writing this cannot be the same time that the incident happened. Because you don't walk into the room, the resident's on the floor, you go start writing incident report. Right? That's your signature. No signature, no fancy, the one you use to cash your check, to deposit your check. You have to spell out your name because this information is going to court. You can only use black pen. Might go to court. Okay. Good points. If they cannot talk, then You don't know what happened. You're gonna skip how it happened. You're just gonna say you found resident on the floor, write the position you found resident, and that's it. Okay. So understand that after every fall incident, there must be an investigation. Why do we investigate? We want to, number one, rule out abuse, because the state is very strict on abuse. We want to make sure that a resident wasn't abused that led to the fall. We also want to make sure that what can we do to prevent falls from happening, to prevent this resident from falling again or other residents from falling. Because fall is a big problem in nursing home, very big. We in a clinical meeting on Friday, the quality assurance nurse was giving the statistics for the month that by the 15th of the month, we already had like 9 falls. I mean, our facility is big. We have like 296 beds. And we have some crazy residents, some challenging residents. So some of them will fall intentionally just to get on your nerves. So,
and that's not a good record because the state,
they give you statistics as to which nursing home has this record or that record or that record. So we don't want to be the nursing home that have the worst fall record. Then that tells potential family that place is a fall. It's a fall area. So
how do you edit the numbers before you send it to the state, or how do
you do what?
You edit the numbers?
No. Every time there's a fall, we must report it to the state. We must report it to the the doctor. We must report it to the family. The charge nurse will do that.
So a nurse is actually the one in charge of the quality assurance, right?
and that's her job, to be the quality assurance for the whole building. She does not pass medication or do treatments. Is to make sure that every department, every areas of nursing, that she's keeping an eye on trying to prevent those incidents from occurring, or what can we do to address it. So I was about to tell you about.
Is there special training for that, or she's just assigned the role to you?
Just be a nurse first, then you can go wherever you want to go.
Okay. So that
once you're a nurse,
that will has to be an RN or any other person.
It has to be an RN.
It's more like an occupational issue. So
yes. Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to take you back.
No, it's okay.
An incident happened yesterday.
A fall?
Not really.
Okay, good.
You know, she can't do anything on her own.
Yeah.
She's total.
Yeah.
So I was trying to lift her, but she was having her son. The shoe was not. So I just saw that she was just sleeping.
Okay.
What is wrong with you? So I found that she was not home. The socks at times I used to take out the socks. So I couldn't do anything to struggle with her, but I had to on my own lay her down gently.
Yeah.
So that for me to pick up was small.
Yeah. It can happen that you're walking the client. Please, can you guys stay off your phones? You're in class. Let the people know you're in class. You can call them back, text them back after class or during break, so you can concentrate and not distract from others. So it can happen that you're bathing them, you're walking them, and they sleep. Okay. Then you need to lower them to the floor, so that it's a control for. You're still not an incident report, unfortunately, because what if in the process of lowering them to the floor they fall, or they sprain an ankle, or there's an injury, or there's a skin tear? That way we know it happened during that process, you're not in trouble or anything. After all, you actually prevented a bigger injury. You understand? By lowering them to the floor, that's control. Instead of they just went bam. You understand? That would have been a more serious case. And that's why, but if you're walking them and the facility policy says you must walk them with a gait belt, and you did not use the gate belts during the walking them, then you're in trouble because you violated the policy by not using a gate belt. So back to the investigation.
Before we go back, because I still want to buttress on what she said. You know, she made mention of the fact that so at times she walked them with their socks on, which is very wrong.
Sticky socks.
It doesn't really matter. You still have to.
Yeah, they need to have a non-skid shoe on. If you look at the skills, so there's a step when walking the client, they're gonna say, put the non-skid shoe on the residents before you walk them. You cannot walk them with socks because it is, they're gonna fall, slip and fall. Yeah. So make sure before you walk them. Like I said, the investigation is to find out. It could be that the resident is now declining. They used to walk, be able to go to the bathroom by themselves. Now they can no longer do that. So now we know to be assisting them to toilet them. We know to adjust the care plan. Okay. So we have a fall team. They're gonna go to the resident the next day to interview the residents, right? Oh, Mr. Ray, we heard you had a fall yesterday. Sorry about that. We're trying to ask you to tell us what happened. He better state the same thing that you stated. Because here's what could happen, right? Mr. Ray says, well, I put the call light on at 8:30 for somebody to take me to the bathroom. And let me pick on someone. What's your name, madam? I forgot your name. Miss Arcee. Miss Arcee came to the room and told me she'll be back. She didn't come back. So I decided to go on my own. And then I fell. Oh, okay. So now we have some problems because you didn't put that here. I would not expect you to put that here. If you came back, if you walk into the room and then you find the resident on the floor, you ask the resident what happened, and the resident says to you, didn't I ask you to come and take me to the bathroom? An hour ago, you didn't come, so I decided to go on my own and I fell. Are you gonna write that down? No. But if it comes up, don't deny it if that's what happened. You can say it verbally during an interview, right? When they interview you. If they say, why didn't you write that down? You say, well, I didn't think it was necessary. Okay? Once you write it down, you cannot take it back. You understand? So then there'll be another investigation to find out, or he might say that I put the light on and nobody came. So I decided to go on my own. Then we need to find out when did he, if that's even correct, because he may not be saying the correct thing. But we can check the video. There's a video of every room, not inside the room, but the hallway that can show, and a lot of facilities have the system where when the resident put their light on, it's recorded in the computer. The time the light came on, the time it was turned off. You can only turn it off by going to the room to turn it off over the bedside. That means you've answered the light. You can't turn it off at the nursing station. That means somebody went and answered the light. So we can check the video and see light came on at 8:30. All right, let's look at the nursing station. Maybe you were just sitting there on your phone watching some movies, Netflix or African movie or on YouTube, whatever, then we see, or maybe some people had walked past that door, the light was on, they didn't answer it. They could have prevented the fall. The QA's job is to find out what could have been done to prevent this fall in the future. Okay. So they'll get all that information. Worst case scenario, he better not say that you pushed him down or you were trying to walk into the bathroom and he fell while you were walking him. That's a complete different story from what you wrote down. That's an abuse. That would be a different investigation if it is found to be true.
He said that what residents.
Suppose he says that.
Yeah, I'm the one pushing.
No. You were walking him to the bathroom and he fell on the way to the bathroom. But then you put it a different way.
No, I'm asking a question. Suppose a resident said he pushed him down.
Immediately, even if it's not true, you get suspended immediately. No questions asked. Once there's an alleged, listen, it's in the book. If there is an alleged abuse, everybody involved gets suspended pending conclusion of the investigation. If it is concluded that it didn't happen, you come back with pay.
So they pay you for the
Yes, they're gonna pay you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But if it is, and then you cannot work on that floor again because they have to separate you. Maybe the person doesn't like you. We don't want that confrontation again. Maybe you see him the next time and say, Mr. Ray, why did you lie on me? We don't want that. Don't go talk to the resident or have anything to do with that resident again because for whatever reason they reported you. So we have to separate you from him. You cannot work with him again. But the reason for the suspension is why?
You want to know about the investigation.
To investigate the
That's one. What's another one? More important than that.
if it's true, they don't want like an abuser working in their facility.
And abusing other residents.
Yeah.
Because if it's true that it happened, we don't know yet. We don't want you continuing to abuse other residents because we should have removed you from that situation. First of all, that's the first thing to do. No questions asked. Okay. So that's your incident report. Any question? Did you get this? You're supposed to write.
She got it.
Sorry? Yeah, I have been suspended before.
How many times?
What difference does it make? I have been suspended before. There was a case when a resident died, and there was the CNN had stated that they had informed me that the residents couldn't breathe or was having difficulty breathing, and the resident said that I did not go see the resident. The CNN said that I did not go see the resident. So when that happened, they had to suspend me pending the investigation because they had to watch the video because I said I did respond to the resident. And I went there, I checked the vital signs. At the time, the resident was breathing okay. So it was later on that resident now went into cardiac arrest. But I did respond and assess the resident at that time, and I was still checking on the resident. So they watched the video later on and saw that I did go into the room, and then I came back.
How many days?
How is that? How does that relate to this now?
No, you're giving us real life scenarios.
Yeah, but it's a scenario different from this scenario. Did you get this? Did you get this?
She has
That is a homework you want to do. Yeah, you can do that home, turn it in tomorrow. That's the end of the 10A. All right?